Hey everyone, Dr. Michael Breus, the sleep doctor here. Let me ask you a question. Would you prefer to stay up late and then wake up later? Or are you like some people who want to go to bed early and then be the first to wake up? Historically, we've called the people who like to stay up late night owls and the people who like to get up early birds. And this actually describes something called their circadian rhythms. Now, inside of the idea of circadian rhythms, we have these things called chronotypes. Turns out that there's actually quite a few types out there. And this is something that's been studied since the 70s. We used to say there's early birds, there's night owls, and then there are these people in the middle called hummingbirds. When we were studying chronotypes, and this is going back quite a ways, started to learn a few different things. Number one, turns out these are genetic. So you don't get to say, today I want to be an early bird and tomorrow I want to be a night owl. I could actually show you in a very specific area called the PER3 gene, where if it's flip-flopped one way or another, you're a night owl, and the other way, you're an early bird. Now, what's also interesting is people go through all of these over the course of their lifetime. So if you're an itty-bitty baby, you're an early bird. You're going to bed early, you're waking up early. When you hit toddler, middle school range, you're a hummingbird. You kind of stay in the middle, you get up around 7:30, you go to bed around 7:30, that kind of thing. Once you hit high school, you turn into a night owl, right? You want to stay up late and then you want to sleep late. So everybody has a tendency to go through these chronotypes. Once you hit adulthood, you set into one, and then that seems to stick for maybe 30 to 40 years. Then when you get older, it starts to change again. So knowing your chronotype can teach you exactly when to go to bed, when to get out of bed, even tell you the best time of day to have a cup of coffee or take a nap. And we're going to start to break that down right now. And by the way, if you haven't taken it yet, do me a favor. Go over and take out my chrono quiz, because if you're going to do something and learn about your chronotypes, you might as well know what yours is. If you swing on over to chronoquiz.com, you can do that. Or if you can go over to sleepdoctor.com, you can take it there. Once you've taken the quiz, you're going to be identified as one of 4 different chronotypes. Again, remember, we know what the first 3 are: early birds or larks, hummingbirds in the middle, night owls towards the end. Now, this was all originally based on when do people's melatonin production begin and end. Early birds, their melatonin turns off early and turns on early. For night owls, their melatonin turns off late and turns on late. Now, why does that mean anything? Knowing and understanding when your body kicks off in the morning actually activates all the other circadian rhythms that are happening for you. So understanding how that works becomes incredibly, incredibly important. Let me break this down a little bit more for you so you start to really understand the differences. So we know that early birds make up somewhere between 15 and 20% of the population. Remember, I call them lions. The reason I call them lions is I'm a mammal, not a bird. And who doesn't want to be the king or queen of the jungle, right? And what we know is that their core body temperature rises early, almost 90 minutes earlier than most of the population, which is the reason why they were originally called early birds. I call them lions. The next group, the hummingbirds, are the folks in the middle. They make up somewhere between 50 and 55% of the population. They get up right when their temperature rises. They fall asleep right when their temperature returns. Their hormones are very normal. They go into a very normal curve and very easy to predict. Now let's talk about night owls, or who I call wolves. They make up somewhere between 15 and 20% of the population, and their temperature is delayed. So when their temperature decides to go up, it takes a little bit longer, and their hormones are about 90 minutes behind the bears who are in the middle, and even further behind the early birds. Now, everything I told you so far actually should sound somewhat familiar, because I haven't really told you anything new since the 70s. My discovery was a group of sleepers that I call dolphins. Now, people always say, well, why did you choose dolphins? Turns out that dolphins sleep unihemispherically. So half of their brain is asleep while the other half is awake and looking for predators. I kind of thought that represented my insomniac clients, because some of my insomniac clients don't fall into any of these categories, but have a very misaligned temperature and very misaligned sleep. And so guess what? Their hormones are irregular. So when you start to look at that 4th category, you can start to understand how these people have got bad sleep. All right, now I'm going to double tap and I'm going to go deep into each category so you can decide which one you are. So remember, lions make up somewhere between 15 and 20% of the population. These are very early morning oriented people. They have kind of a medium sleep drive, but these are go-getters. These are leaders. These are usually the COO of a company. They've got great management skills. They have a tendency to, by the way, to prioritize health and fitness. They're the people that are running at 6:30 in the morning. They're big planners. They do have a tendency to go to bed early. Usually they are, again, the operators of a company. They like to get stuff done, or they like to manage people who get stuff done. Some of the famous lions out there, Maya Angelou, Benjamin Franklin, remember early to bed, early to rise, and my good friend Kelly Ripa. People in the middle, I call them bears that make up about 55% of the population. These guys are kind of like solar sleepers, right? They go to bed around 10:30, they wake up around 7. They have a very healthy sleep drive, and I would consider bears to be the glue for society. Some of them aren't necessarily extroverted, but all of them are open-minded. Very fun, very enjoyable group, but they make up most of society. I mean, let's be honest, 55% of society, that's how society works. So like that 9 to 5 schedule is perfect for a bear. Some of the more famous bears out there, Stephen King, the author, Jeff Bezos, and my friend Ariana Huffington. Next are the wolves. That's the chronotype that I have historically fallen into. I've been a night owl my whole life. They make up about 15 to 20% of the general adult population. And this is really where I see a different kind of person. This is where my creatives have a tendency to hang out. So my authors, my actors, my musicians, people who are kind of out of the box thinkers, they crave novelty. They are somewhat socially introverted, but they become deeply loyal friends and are great people to hang out with. Some of the people out there in the world that we know of that are these late night wolves, Elon Musk, Dave Asprey from Bulletproof, my buddy Jay Leno and Rachel Ray, both of them are super late nighters. All of these chronotypes so far should feel like things that you've heard of, that you know about. I want to introduce to you the idea of a dolphin chronotype. I feel they make up roughly 10% of the population, and these are people with very erratic sleep schedules. They have a very short sleep drive, but they crave longer bouts of sleep. So their biology only wants them to sleep, let's say, around 6 hours, but their psychology wants them to sleep 7 or 8. They usually self-diagnose as insomniacs. They're very intelligent, but they do have a tendency to be just a little obsessive compulsive, especially with details. Very fast talking, usually well-read and very fun. Some of the most famous dolphin chronotypes out there, William Shakespeare, Richard Branson, and my buddy Steve Aoki. Remember, if you want to figure out what your chronotype is definitively, head on over to chronoquiz.com and you'll learn about it there. What I thought I would do now is break down some of the more important sleep aspects by your chronotype to teach everybody how to use this information. So lions and bears fall into one particular category when we're talking about total sleep time, and dolphins and wolves fall into a separate category when we're talking about total sleep time. Remember, the average kind of sleep cycle is roughly 90 minutes. So lions and bears have a tendency to have 5 of these cycles, and it should take them about 20 minutes to fall asleep. So 90 times 5 is 450 minutes. Add 20 minutes to fall asleep, and so somebody should be in bed for roughly 7.8 hours or 470 minutes if you're a lion or a bear. If you're a dolphin or a wolf, late nighters, right, it's a little bit different. You still have 90-minute sleep cycles, but unfortunately, you only have 4 cycles, not 5. So you actually have 90 minutes less sleep, and it takes you almost double the amount of time to fall asleep. So let's say we put in 40 minutes for you to fall asleep. 4 times 90 is 360 minutes. Add that 40. Now we're at 400 minutes for the night in total. So lions and bears get 470 minutes. Dolphins and wolves have a tendency to get about 400 minutes. So now that you've kind of figured that out, we can actually look at bedtimes and rise times. So if you're a lion, you're probably waking up around 6 a.m. I would want you going to bed around 10:10. If you're a bear, I want you getting up around 7 a.m., going to bed around 11:10. Notice it's been shifted by about an hour between lions and bears. Dolphins are a little bit different. They're going to kind of split the difference in terms of their wake up time. They're going to be waking up at 6:30. But remember, they have one less sleep cycle than everybody else. So they're going to be going to bed later than bears and later than lions at around 11:50. And then wolves, the traditional night people, I know they're not going to like this. We want them to get up at 7 a.m., which is not a lot of fun for them. But they're going to bed around 12:20, which is going to give them the opportunity to get about 6 hours of sleep. So now you know a little bit more about your chronotype. It's time to start thinking about how this should influence your pre-bedtime routine. Because now that you know what time to go to bed, you're going to want to have something that's steady, predictable pre-bedtime routine that's really important for your sleep. I recently created a video that put together all of the different possible bedtime routines for you right here. Remember, understanding your chronotype is the key to finding the right bedtime and also unlocking your productivity throughout the day. And the good news is that the bedtime routine works for everyone, not just a specific chronotype. This is Dr. Michael Breus, the Sleep Doctor, wishing you sweet chronotypical dreams.